Don't ask me where I've been with these book reviews. Don't ask me, don't ask me. But welcome back to another edition of NATGEE Reads. We're reviewing Such a Fun Age by Kiley Reid. This is gonna be a short review because I really don't have much to say, but I do want to kind of discuss it, and I'm excited to see what kind of discussion this might bring to the comments in the coming times. So I really just wanted to put my thoughts out there on this. If you want to get into a quick book review on Such a Fun Age by Kiley Reid, then just scroll down, hit the subscribe button, join the NATGEE gang, and let's get into this video. I can't summarize this book, so I'm gonna read the back of it just so that you guys got a really good feel for what it's about. But basically, there's a question at the top that says, what happens when you do the right thing for the wrong reason? Alex Chamberlain is a woman who gets what she wants and has made a living showing other women how to do the same. So she is shocked when her babysitter Amira Tucker is confronted while watching her daughter one night in the aisles of their high-end supermarket. The store's security guard, seeing a young black woman out late with a white child, accuses Amira of kidnapping. A small crowd gathers, a bystander films everything, and Amira is furious and humiliated. Alex resolves to make things right. But Amira herself is aimless, broke, and wary of Alex's desire to help. At 25, she's about to lose her health insurance and has no idea what to do with her life. When the video of Amira unearths someone from Alex's past, both women find themselves on a crash course that will upend everything they think they know about themselves and each other. The Atlantic described it as a funny, fast-paced social satire about privileged America, and it is spot on, but it's way more entertaining than that. I've had this book for some time. My best friend gave this to me as a gift, and I really appreciate it because I was gonna buy it, and I was gonna buy either the audio version or the physical, but I've been thinking about it for a while. When I read that and I got the physical, I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be heavy. This is gonna be super heavy. Like, just based on that back cover and based on that like quote, I thought like it was just going to be a lot more like heavier on the chest, heavy on the heart. It's not. It's really light, really fun, really fast paced. I often relate books to Insecure, the show by Issa Rae, because I feel like for black people currently like ingesting media, I feel like that's kind of like the bar. For our main character, Amira, that is definitely the vibe. It's just that something bad happens to her, like they said that night at the grocery store. So I'm glad it wasn't as heavy and as drudgy due to the subject matter. What my review is, and I'm gonna say it first. So my review of this book is probably, okay, realistically it should be a 10 out of 10. I'm not gonna disregard my bias. Because of the type of person and reader I am, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. The reason being is because I hated the ending. Throughout this book, we are confronting like black girl, like doing her job, gets caught by the wrong authority figures and questioning her. And then she's also aimless. I feel like her character is just so spot on and consistent the whole time. And I think that's why I maybe didn't like the ending, because it was almost too real. That's why I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, because I feel like the ending was almost too real. For me personally, again, I think that if you love a good book and you're not biased like me, you'd give this a 10 out of 10. But for me, it's like an 8 out of 10 because everyone, like no one showed any kind of growth. Like not any kind, that's a loaded statement. No one showed a lot of growth. And I love when I see my characters kind of like totally peak and resolve the main issue. Do a lot of their own side conflicts get resolved and they grow maybe like a teensy bit toward that, sure. But I'm saying the major issue here is we have a white woman who thinks that her way of doing things is always better. The way that she was raised, the way that she deals with Amira, we see that she can't stand the thought of like a contrarian opinion to her. And it's almost like everything Alex says, she's always like trying to convince you, like right? Like, you agree with what I'm saying. Everything she's seen as like the main character in her own life story, which you are, but she sees it in like this doom and gloom, like with no appreciation and no ability to kind of decipher what's really important versus like her petty shit. And then we have Amira who like has no aim to do anything. So it's like, I guess the little bit of growth for her at the end was that she was happy with what she was doing, but I would have loved to see her just like take that moment, that confrontation that happens at the end with Alex. I don't want to give too much. I'm trying to not give spoilers, but the conversation with when everyone was there, I wish that had played out differently. Again, going back to it being realistic and everyone aligning with their characters, I feel like that would have been a great moment for Amira to, like literally like what she said, like the author writes it out. She could say this in this moment, but because she stays so true to her character and who she is at this time and this formative time of 25, she doesn't. She could have told that white woman, like she could have said even the bare minimum and been like, listen, this is how I feel about you as a boss. You did this and I now feel like this, and you are a terrible person because of this. But she doesn't even say like that. And then we hope as the reader that that moment that Amira stood up and said what she had to say would have changed the way Alex would have perceived things. But I feel what was intentional on the author's end was that she didn't give us that satisfaction of that specifically, because that's not how things work. Even if Amira had said something, the reality of it is that white woman would have kept on white womaning. Like there's very like few times that you confront a white person and you tell them that their behavior is shitty and you tell them that this is wrong and it makes me feel this type of way and I didn't ask for this and you're not advocating for me. It's all to, you know, make you look better. They kind of say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. And then literally question nothing else after. Or they get offended and say, you're taking it too seriously. What is the problem with you? What, you can't take a joke or you can't appreciate what we're doing for you. So it takes on one of those tones. So I think the author's trying to say that even if she had said something, it probably would have changed very little at the end, which is a shitty way, you know, to think, but it's the reality. Like we have video recordings of people doing wild shit, Karens, that's where they get their name from, of white women, white womaning on camera. And at the end of the day, nothing changes for that white woman. Like nothing. So it's almost like even if given that platform and saying what she had to say at the end, would it have stopped anything? Would she have changed? No. These people end up finding their own tribes. And we see that with Alex's best friend, Tamra. She has a black best friend who co-signs everything she says. I love that Amira's friend called her an Uncle Tom, because in my mind, I was like, the whole time I'm like, she's not a coon. Coon is not correct. Fucking Uncle Tom, that is the better the better name for it, because there's something like about that type of black woman who has all white friends. First of all, red flag, baby girl. You can't have all white friends. Like you can't have all of one race friends. Like something's not right either way. Having a name like Tamra and naming your children Cleo and Imani, and who she portrays herself to be as this strong principal, first black woman. I think she was the first black woman to do something in like their group or her family or something like that. But she's a very strong individual. So that is like the representation of the black woman. And it's like, that to me is giving good slave. Like she does all that to appear like in blackness, but in reality, a lot of what she says and her actions are outside of it. And it's to be like, oh, well, what is blackness? What is, because Tamara's not acting like a city girl, she's not black. That's not what I'm saying at all. There's a lot of her opinions. If you listen to anything that Alex Chamberlain says, to whatever she asks, Tamara always has her back. And even her interaction, I literally got chills during her interaction with Amir, because it wasn't just that you were coming from two different parts of life or that you're a certain type, you know, black people are not a monolith. Like Tamara, you can be a certain type of black person, and so can Amir, and you guys can be totally different. But there's just something that if you're not on the white Uncle Tom side of blackness, there are things that you just wouldn't say. And again, it has nothing to do with how you present. It's just when she was like touching her hair and like stuff, like those are things that we just literally, I only do that to my best friend and maybe like my sisters and my mom. I don't touch like a random black girl's hair who I just met. I don't do it. Like, and then comment on it like, oh, like, is this your, like, your natural hair? Like, why are you like asking about it? Like in that way, not to say like, oh my gosh, your hair is so pretty. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like there's a very, that's not black to me. You can't be, like, black people just don't do that. Like you don't come up to someone and touch their hair and like comment on the fact that it's like an extension or it's like a weave, or unless you're like close with the person. But like in your first interaction, like that's the stuff you're doing, that's stuff that white women do. And that's what, like, to me, like those are just triggers with Tamra. And like just how she talks about her girls, or I don't know, there's something there that I was really early on able to pick up, that she's not down for the cause, she's not with the girls, she's with the people over there. Tamara's never advocating for black people. She's advocating for herself and her representation of blackness. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm saying for someone like that to be in a room is really detrimental to the other white, like, opinions and voices there, because she should not be the one co-signing these things. Yes, she is your representation of a black woman, but in reality, she does not represent that many black women. I hope I said that right. Probably got to chop that together, but she rubbed me the wrong way from the beginning, and I was like, this woman's not it. There's just certain things you just don't do, and there's certain things you just wouldn't say. That's like saying those black women or black people who were with the convoy, black card revoked. Like, that to me is just something you just don't support. Even if there's one Confederate flag, you should not be there. Like, you should not be with that movement. You need to start a Black people to end mandates movement. It has nothing to do with what they're doing over there. Like, it just, to me, that stuff just didn't sit well. So it's kind of like, that's what I'm saying, is like, what kind of Black person was Tamra? She's the wrong Black person to have in the room, because everyone who was running in that convoy was like, well, we have Black people here, so the Black people here aren't mad about it. The person who's basically like, yep, got my Black stamp, it's good. And it's like, no, that person wants to be included. They want to be involved in some way, shape, or form. They have an insecurity that they feel like being next to you will resolve and absolve them of, and it doesn't, unfortunately for them. But it's the part that sucks for the other Black people is that person ruins it for us, because they're acting as the representation and the voice of, and it's like, you're not, nobody has that person to speak. But yeah, I enjoyed reading it. It does go really fast. Like, there's a moment in the beginning where you're like, okay, where are we going with this? And then once you get into it, and it goes super fast. Things I did kind of like, but wish, again, there was a bit more of. Amira, like we said, she's, what were the words used? Aimless. And that even comes to like her conversations. Like, she doesn't communicate. She didn't learn to communicate like how someone makes her feel. So at the end of the book, I was a bit disappointed that there wasn't more conversations with Kelly around what happened in the big ending. I feel like I, as the reader, would want to know how to wrap that up or how you handled that. But then I think about the type of character Kelly was, and when we're doing like flashbacks of his moments of the book, when he's talking to her about Moesha, or trying to relate to her on that level, the fact that he only has Black friends, the fact that he seeks out Black women and only dates Black women, those are things that when I look back on it, for him as a white guy to date Amira, I understand why she didn't have more conversations with him at the end, because I feel like that's not the ex you owe an explanation to. Like, if you ghost and you're done, like, you don't really need to explain yourself just because there's so much stuff. But again, this is one of those moments where I feel like it would have been nice for her to have a conversation as a Black woman with this white guy and say, these are the things that you're doing wrong. Like, you can't say the N-word. You can't, like, even in storytelling, you can't just actively seek out Black women. Like, what's going on with that? Like, but then I think as the author, what is she trying to tell us? And she's trying to tell us that, would it have even friggin' mattered? Like, would it have? Would he ever not tell that story again and say the N-word? Would he stop seeking out Black women? Would he stop hanging out with Black people? Probably not. Like, it's just one of those things that it's like, we can't change people, and all Amira could do in that moment at the end was represent herself. And again, I'm trying not to give spoilers, so it's really hard for me to give a book review all the time. I struggle with this because I just want to discuss like the characters more so than the plot, because I don't want to ruin it for somebody. But the way it unravels, you get really stuck in this triangle and connection of people who know each other but shouldn't know each other, and the things that exposes of each person involved in the relationships. And I have to say, like, Alex Chamberlain is exactly like, white people can read her and identify her as well as Black people can read her and identify her. And that is why I like the way she's written, because I don't think by any stretch the author's saying this is how all white women operate, nor is this how all white women think. But is it the majority? Yes, we all know that woman. That woman who just literally thinks like the most petty things, like about high school, like, oh my gosh, I was that girl back then. That person was so this, like, just to be so invested in it that when someone from your past comes back, it basically like upends your whole life, or like you think about like you're like bragging to your high school person about like, oh, I do this, I have sex with my husband and I drink beer. Like, it's like that woman who cares so much about like appearances to the point that you want to appease that person from your past who doesn't give a rat's ass about you. It's fucking embarrassing. But we all know that girl. It's the same girl that like is on Facebook sharing memories from back then, like good days. It's like, girl, we're only 30 something. Like, stop acting like we're the fucking Golden Girls already and get your shit together. But she's just that woman, and that woman just that thinks that like, oh, from my perspective, like my perspective matters that much that I need to deep dive into like what someone's going through, who they're dating. I need to know and get involved in that. And it's like, girl, you're not that important. Like, and that's the thing is I want to have those conversations with those women and be like, you're not that important. Like, no one's talking about you or thinking about you. But we can't. It's not going to change anything. It's like a baby. Like, if you're not around that person 24/7 telling them what to do or like what opinions to have on things, is it really going to change the one time you talk to them about it? No, because I'm the type of person that I always have that conversation, even if it's difficult. Like, I remember one time I had a coworker who, actually he was an employee. I was a supervisor, yeah. I had an employee who like was talking that all lives matter smack around me. And I had to like say like, listen, Black lives matter and here's why. And I just had to break it down for this white boy. And he would still argue and be like, I don't get it. I don't think that's true. You're not that important, blah, blah, blah. Everybody matters. If you, how can that one person matter? And I just would go to bat with it until the conversation ends and walk away and just let it roll off my back. That person, so I ended up working somewhere else. He ended up working somewhere else. And that person reached out to me like in the last year and they were like, you remember when I was a total ass head and said all lives matter? I thought about it and like, you're right. And I should not have that kind of opinion. And I really feel terrible for having to like argue with you about something that's so stupid. And this is a white person, unprompted. I haven't spoken to this person for like 2 years maybe. And I was like, see, this is why we have those conversations, because it's like, you never know when it's gonna resonate with somebody. And that's what I wish, like in everything, when Amira needs to resolve or when I feel like she needs to resolve, I wish she did, because yes, it doesn't work for everybody, but I wanna believe that the one time you have the conversation or you air that person's laundry out, that like, even if they don't get it today, they might get it tomorrow. So that was my thing. I think my only downside with this book, that and the characters are so damn consistent. It's not really a bad thing, but it's just like, damn, like how consistent can you be? But then I think about people I actually know, and literally a lot of people, once they're set in their ways, you cannot change them, you cannot fix them, and they will not act outside of it. Like crazy, like it's on brand, like everyone stays on brand. So it's nice because it's almost like, y'all remember the ending of Game of Thrones? We were, a lot of us, I say we, and I mean a lot of us, were disappointed when Daenerys became exactly who she was supposed to be. And it's like, why did we let that bother us? And it's like, because it's not what we've been conditioned to accept as like a suitable happy ending or a suitable ending, period. And then you think about it, but that, I'm like, that's what people do and that's who people are. So I like that this was authentically written, because at the end of the day, say she had made it like, oh, well, everyone in the end learned a lesson. We'd probably be sitting here and we wouldn't feel right. We know, like we know. And the better part about this is that because of how it's written, and it's written from both Amira's perspective and Alex's perspective, you don't have to be a Black person to pick this up and read this and get it. Like to get like something terrible happened in here, and there's definitely two sides to the story, and sometimes we need to understand that our perspective isn't necessarily the most accurate, true, or, you know, necessary. Like sometimes it's okay to take a backseat. Sometimes it's okay to understand yourself. Sometimes it's okay to just like chill. And also like for Amira, I think my issue too was with how she was conveyed. It was again so authentic in like, you know, Black girl from like a lower income family. I'm saying that in quotation marks, but it was true. Who doesn't know what the fuck she wants to do, is about to get kicked off insurance, is broke. Like, I'm upset that she turned up at the end, because I wish she held her composure a little bit while the cameras were rolling, just so that you, like, again, you're not pushing that narrative of like what a Black person is. Like I would have loved if she got up and elegantly read everybody for filth, but that's not who she is. That's not where she comes from, and that's not who she'll be. So I'm like, I have to like take it back, but I wish it happened. Like, so like deep down inside, I wish everyone was so damn consistent. I will not get over that fact that like, I'm like, these characters, they don't change. They don't move. Sliding, 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 yeah. So, do I recommend this book? Absolutely. I think that, like I said, you could be Black, you can be brown, you can be white, you can read this book and get that something bad happens, and that you need to pick your role in it wisely, like how you handle it, especially whether you're a Black person and you're on one side of the fence, or if you're a white person, you're on the other side of the fence. I think it makes you think a little bit about like, what would you do if you were in the situation? Because it's very believable that this could happen to literally anybody. So I like it. I like the perspectives. I like that when you read it, you can identify these people or find where you would fit in with these people. It's a good book. Definitely recommend it. Again, I would do it 8 out of 10 because I just wanted a bit more in the ending. It's just not what I wanted, but it was good. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you did like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below if you have any questions that you want to discuss about this book. I loved it so much. Even if it's about characters or, you know, points of view, let me know that in the comments down below. And as always, subscribe to me. You pay my bills, right? Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.